Hello and welcome back to the 30-Day Better You Challenge. My name is Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. I really appreciate your support and I hope you've been enjoying these videos. A couple days ago, I introduced a technique to you called empty your cup, fill your cup. And today I'd planned on talking to you about some empty cup stuff, specifically toxins. And I actually wrote out a bunch of categories of toxins that are found in our everyday life. And the first category was toxins that we know that are bad for us, but we often just consume them anyway. These are like substances like alcohol, tobacco, drugs, things like that. Then another category was toxins that we don't know about, chemicals that might be in our household cleaning products or even our food. And then the third category was stuff that might not necessarily be bad for us until we abuse them or overuse them. And this could be something like even going to the gym, right? That's good for you, right? Until you overtrain and you hurt yourself. I've done that before and it took me like 2 years to fully recover. It sucked. But it also might be a hobby, It's totally okay to play golf or, play video games once in a while or whatever hobby that you find entertaining. But when you're skipping work or ignoring your kids, then it becomes a problem. So that's the third type of category. And so I wrote down all these categories and started listing different items and substances. And one really stood out the most, so much so because it kind of fits into all three categories. And I realized that all of us are exposing ourselves to this one thing every single day. And today we're going to talk about it. Today's challenge is put down your phone. Okay, so be honest here. How often does this happen to you? You go to check your phone, just maybe see what time it is, and you see that you have a text message. So you read the text message, you reply to the text message, and then you decide, well, I'm on my phone anyway, so I might as well check my email. So you check your email. And after you get done checking your email, you check your Facebook. And then you might check Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or whatever other social media accounts you have. And you're replying to friend requests and replying to comments and liking this and liking that and scrolling. And then when you feel like you're all caught up with your phone, you put your phone down and you kind of snap out of this weird trance you were in, and you realize that an entire 30 minutes just went by, like that, right? The whole reason why you checked your phone in the first place was to see what time it was, and that cost you a half hour of your life. And we're all guilty of this. And I believe that it's actually a bigger problem than we think. Let's dive deeper. For starters, it's just sensory overload. We're constantly being bombarded by noise and flashing images, not to mention the barrage of advertisements and subliminal messages we're subjecting ourselves to on a constant basis. Our attention spans are falling away. Everyone seems to have some sort of attention deficit disorder, and we keep getting suckered into consumer pitfalls, desiring things we see other people have and buying things we don't need. In the very least, we're just wasting precious time doom scrolling through content, most of it garbage, being voyeurs and gawking at other people's lives instead of living our own. We're becoming less social and more uncomfortable with people in person. Is it weird to anyone else how easy and normal it is that people just flash their junk to the camera and show the whole world their naughty bits without even batting an eye? And yet sitting down with another human being and having a conversation about life is awkward? Like, what's that about? Are we just hiding from each other behind our screens? And it's not to say that technology is bad. It's very useful. Obviously, it's a game changer and has made quality of life so much better in so many ways. And it's amazing to have all this information readily available and for news to travel instantly. Plus, we're better able to keep in touch with each other when we're hundreds or even thousands of miles apart. But when we're sitting right next to each other, there seems to be this disconnect. How often does it happen to you where you're talking to someone and they're on their phone, just looking at their phones while you're trying to have a conversation with them? They might even be texting someone. So they're having an entirely different conversation with someone else while they're pretending to listen to you. And there's a lot of people that don't even think that that's rude. Like, this is just normal. We do this all the time. And I'm not really trying to judge anyone here. What I'm saying is I think we need to try to put our phones down. We need to get back to being human beings instead of just digital zombies. But it's not just the social dynamics that are concerning. Consider how much of our everyday life is pervaded by artificially created electromagnetic radiation. So much of our lives center around our electronics, many of them now using wireless technology. Our bodies are constantly being exposed to invisible waves of energy from our TVs, computers, phones, Wi-Fi modems, and Bluetooth devices, even our refrigerators and other appliances. All these things constantly emitting streams of electrical energy out into the ether, inundating the electromagnetic field with a new type of pollution. In all of human history, we've never dealt with anything like this before. This is completely new territory. And I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but what are the long-term effects of continuous exposure? Just to give you a personal story, a few years back I worked in the wildlife film industry, and we were working on this project, and my director of photography, the person I worked for, was sent to the Chernobyl site, which is the site of the infamous power plant that had that giant meltdown back in Soviet Russia, I think in 1986. Thousands of people had to be evacuated. It was a really, really, really terrible event. And basically, the whole area has been shut down since. And slowly they've been opening parts of it back up, and especially to the scientific field, because there's the whole site has been like reclaimed by wilderness. Wolves are coming back, deer populations are coming back, wild boars. So it's kind of become an ecological site in a way, which is kind of weird because it's a nuclear disaster. And especially if you go there in winter, it's considered safer because all the you're not really too much worried about the alpha particles that were in the air and the waves at that point at the moment of the meltdown. But now it's all the beta particles, so it's in the dust and the dirt that's settled. And in the winter, when everything's covered in snow, it's considered a little bit safer to go and visit, and you're not inhaling radioactive dust. Anyways, long story short, I didn't get to go, nor did I want to go. But my job was to pack and unpack the gear. And just to be safe, we decided to buy a Geiger counter. So I had to learn how to actually use this Geiger counter. And everything, every lens, every piece of camera equipment, the camera bag, the tripod, everything that came back from this trip, I used the Geiger counter to see if it pinged hot or not. And pretty much almost everything was okay. I think we ended up throwing away I think 1 or 2 items. One I know was a camera bag, and it pinged a little hot, but probably safe. But it was a $50 camera bag. Better to be safe than sorry. So we just threw it out. Well, just for entertainment purposes, I decided to read my phone with the Geiger counter. And I'm not going to tell you what kind of phone I had because I don't want to get sued. But I had a very popular phone at the time, and it pinged higher, almost twice as high as the camera bag that came back from Chernobyl. So this was like 10 years ago. And from that moment on, like I stopped carrying my phone in my pocket everywhere I go. Like when I arrive to my destination, I'll take my phone out and I'll put it on the desk beside me. It'll be within reach, but it's not in my pocket next to my testicles all day long. So just something to think about. I'm not trying to make you paranoid, but these things do emit some form of electromagnetic radiation. And we consider them safe because I believe that in small dosages, they are safe. But are we looking at like long-term studies here? What happens when you carry this in your pocket every single day, all day, right next to your testes or your ovaries? Like, are we studying this at all? I really just encourage you to be mindful of that. I encourage you to do your own research, and I definitely encourage you to just limit your screen time. There are a lot of apps that can help you do that. Have maybe rules for yourself, like no phone at the dinner table, or no phone in bed. Certainly don't charge your phone right next to your head on your nightstand. Charge it away from your brain. But just having and being mindful, having rules and being mindful of these sorts of things. Maybe try deactivating your social media accounts for a little bit. I did that once. It was supposed to just be for like 2 or 3 months. I ended up deactivating my social media accounts for 1.5 years, and it was amazing. After the initial first week or two, I didn't even miss it anymore, and I had all this free time on my hands to do other cool stuff, and I felt more productive. I felt like I was accomplishing more things because I wasn't wasting all my time, doom scrolling. And then the other thing, I became hyper aware of how many people around me were just constantly had their noses in their screens. It was everywhere I went. I'd be at the coffee shop standing in line, and I'd place my order, and I'd look around, and everybody was just like waiting for their coffee or waiting in line to order and not talking to each other at all. Everybody's like dead silent, just scrolling and looking at their phones. And it's like, whoa, like we're becoming so antisocial. So just something to be aware of. I hope this video kind of turned your brain onto some things. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you tomorrow.